How can we achieve the Sustainable Development Goals? I know how. The Native Americans, they have taught us one thing. They said, humankind has not woven the web of life. We are one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we are doing it to ourselves. All things bound together. All things are connected. Our survival is tied to the survival of others. Ladies and gentlemen, our common humanity and responsibility to each other is what is going to ignite this world to be a better place. If not now, then when? Many have seen the video and many have heard my story. And it's a story that represents many individuals in this world, many women and girls. And many, when they read my story, at times they come to the conclusion that poor Tererai, she must be a victim. And let me say this to you. No, I am not a victim. I am part of the solution. And here is how I have learned to define myself. I am a dreamer. I am the master and mistress of my own destiny. I refuse to let the past define who I am. I refuse to let the present challenges in my pathway define the direction that I want to go to. I defied the rules of my father. I defied the rules of my culture. And I refuse to keep silent about societal expectations that marginalize women and girls to be submissive at the expense of their own dignity. The question now is, why did I defy everything that shaped generations of women before me? Why did I defy everything that shaped my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother? I defied because I had hunger for an education. I was married when I was very young. By the time I turned 18, I had 3 children without a high school diploma. One of the children died as an infant because I could not breastfeed the child. I was a child myself. I want to motivate you. I want to inspire you. I want you to believe that we can change the circumstances. This is not only about me. This story is not only about Tererai. This is a story that represents the young girl in Cameroon. It's a story that represents the young woman and men in Europe somewhere. It's a story that represents the reality of the world. If not now, then when? We need to change the narrative. You see, I come from a long line of generations of women and girls who had been married very young. Young before they could define their own dreams. My great-grandmother was married off to my great-grandpa, and she became the 6th wife. My grandmother was married off to my grandfather, and she became the 5th wife. My own mother would end up taking care of many children that my father brought in the home. The children that he had with many other wives. That's where I'm coming from. But I always remember when I was young, people in the community, they would come knocking at my grandmother's heart and say, "Can you come and deliver babies?" Without the ability to read and write, my grandmother would wake up and go and deliver babies, and she delivered thousands of babies in the communities and surrounding areas. Then as she was getting old, my grandmother was shaking and her eyes were failing her. And she would always say, "Baby girl, do you know why I shake so badly? It is because these hands have delivered so many babies. And do you know why my eyes are getting blind? It's because I have seen so many private parts." And I begin to realize if my great-grandmother had been given the opportunity for an education, maybe she would have become one of the best gynecologists of our times, if not the whole world. I grew up in a country known as Rhodesia, and today it's known as Zimbabwe. I grew up herding cattle, never saw the door to a kindergarten. And I remember my childhood, I would go early in the morning and chase birds in my father's field. And all I wanted was an education. It was a time of war. And as the men were going out to fight and some working in the towns, they would come home at times once in a year. The main means of communication were letters that were written to women. And yet women could not read these letters. And I would accompany my Aunt Chida. She always wanted to find someone to read a letter from her husband. And I would listen as these letters were being read by the young men in the village. Listen to these most intimate details. And I said to myself, no one was going to read my letters. I wanted to be able to go to school and read my own letters. That was the awakening of my own education. Unfortunately, as you saw in the video, I went to school, got married when I was young. And as our country gained independence, I met someone, a woman from Heifer International from the US. She asked me one question: what are your dreams? No one had asked me that question before. And I said, I want an education. What kind of an education? I want to have an undergraduate. I want to have a master's and a PhD. It is achievable. She said that. But she had no idea that I was a mother with all these many children and with no high school diploma. And I realized she saw the hunger in me, but she also saw her own hunger. And I want to challenge you with this idea of hunger. There are two kinds of hunger in our lives. There is the little hunger, and there is the big hunger. The little hunger says, I want immediate gratification. The little hunger says, I want to be famous. That's what the little hunger says. But the big hunger, the great hunger, the greatest of all hungers, it's hunger for a meaningful life. And it is the same hunger that is bringing you, all of you here, to start discussing about the development goals, because you realize that as a business community and as government employees and staff, we cannot live in a world where there are young women and young men who have no access to employment, who have no access to education. It is the great hunger in you that is rising and saying, let's go and meet together at the Global Compact meeting and see what solutions we can put in place. It is time. If not now, then. So when this woman said, You can achieve your dreams. I ran to my mother and I said, Mother, I met this woman. She made me believe I can achieve my dreams. My mother said, write down your dreams and bury them deep under the soil. And then you'll see them grow and grow. I come from a society where when a child is born, the little infant, they take and snip the umbilical cord, the birth cord, and they take the mother's dress, they tie the umbilical cord in the mother's dress and bury the umbilical cord with the belief that when the child grows, wherever they go, whatever happens in their life, the umbilical cord will always remind them of their birthplace. My mother realized I needed some faith in my life. She said, if you bury your dreams, wherever you go, whatever happens in your life, despite the abuse life that you live, your buried dreams will always remind you of their importance, that they needed to be achieved. My mother also realized that someone in this family needed to break the cycle of poverty, the vicious cycle that forces the poor to marry off their young daughters, the vicious cycle that forces the poor to refuse their kids to go to school because they do not have the income. And that's the reason why I feel so honored to be speaking in front of you, because I know amongst you there are business people who have done business, who know the solutions to some of these issues that we are talking about. And you can help the global community, you can help our governments, you can help the poor communities to come up with the same solutions that you are using. I wrote 4 dreams first. I want to go to America. I want to have an undergraduate. I want to have a master's. I want to have a PhD. And I was ready to go and bury my dreams so I could see them grow and grow. Then my mother said, your dreams will have greater meaning when they are connected to the greater good. It's not only about the accumulation of your education. It's not only about the accumulation of your personal goals. It is about what comes out of your education and to what extent it is going to connect to the greater good. So I ended up writing down my 5th dream. I wanted to please my mother, I guess. When I'm done, I'll come back and improve the lives of women and girls in my community. My mother said, if you achieve these dreams, not only are you defining who you are, but you are also defining every life that comes out of your womb and generations to come. I knew my mother was handing me an inheritance, and I needed to hold on to that inheritance. I was tired of poverty. I wanted to change my pathway. How many of you here are familiar with this athletic where you have 4 or 5 individuals, they are running, and they are holding this stick and they hand it over to the next set of runners, and they are running and they hand it over to the next set of team of runners up until they achieve. How many of you are familiar with that? What is it called? What is that? Relay? And what is that stick that you're holding? Baton. I always visualize my great-grandmother was born with the baton, and I call it the baton of poverty, the baton of early marriage, the baton of every evil that you can think of, the baton of every... I can't even describe that baton because it's a baton that shaped me. As my grandmother grabs that baton, she runs with that baton, she hands it over to my grandmother. My grandmother holds that baton of poverty, early marriage. She runs and she hands that baton to my mother. My mother grabs that baton, she runs with that baton, she hands it to me. I didn't want that baton. But here is what happened. As she hands that baton, she says, the baton of early marriage, the baton of poverty, the baton of everything that you can think of being marginalized, it ends here. Promise me that's the end of the baton. Jola comes in and say, we want to change the baton that is going to be handed to the next generation. Business community, I challenge you. I challenge you this morning. I want you to hold to that baton and change it because you have the solutions. I want you to hand over that baton, the baton of education, the baton of business models, the solutions that can work. I want you to run with that baton. You hand it to this community. This community takes that baton of education, the baton of good business models. They run with that baton and they hand it over. That's what will make humanity to be a better place. From the day I buried my dreams, it took me 8 years to achieve my high school diploma. 8 years of never giving up. 8 years of trying to get the next tuition that I needed for correspondence, because that time we were still going through the British system of education, where you write your exams and you send them to Cambridge and then they come back. 8 years of never giving up. When I achieved my GED, I found myself at Oklahoma State University, where I accomplished my undergraduate degree in agriculture. And I did my master's in plant pathology. And later on, I did another master's in epidemiology. I got a job. In my first trip home, I went to the place where I had buried my dreams, dug them up, and I could see there were 2 dreams still missing. The achievement of my PhD and the achievement of giving back to my community. I came back to the US and I found myself at Western Michigan University. I remember the day that I was given that paper that now says, you are now a PhD holder. You are now Dr. Trent. I felt like a lawyer. If there are lawyers in this house, don't quote me. And here was my closing argument. If we give opportunities to those who are torn down and marginalized by the social ills of our time, they can achieve their dreams. If we give education opportunities to women and girls, it is the best investment any country, any community, any society could do, because women are going to change this world. Now, I have my PhD. You would think I'm happy. I'm holding that paper. I go home and I'm thinking, gosh, Mother, why did you make me write that 5th goal of giving back? How on earth am I going to give back to my community? Then I remember a conversation that I had with Jolak, the woman I had met some years back. She used the word tinogona. It's a phrase that the business community uses so much. It is achievable. If you write down your goals and you have them and they are measurable, it is achievable. So I said, I'm going to design my T-shirts, and I'm going to have the word Tinogona on my T-shirt. It is achievable. And I'm going to sell these T-shirts, and I'm going to sell millions. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to build a school. I'm going to show the community, and especially the men, that women can make a difference. I'm going to show my father and every man and every individual that if we give opportunities to girls, education opportunities, they can come back and make a difference. Dear Lord, I only managed to sell 20 T-shirts, and mostly to my friends, my American friends. I realized I didn't have a marketing degree. I was so devastated because I wanted to go home and look like a giant. I really wanted to. I wanted everybody to see that there is value in educating women. But here I am, I couldn't do it. Then I got a phone call, the most memorable phone call of my life, the call from Oprah Winfrey. She donated 1.5 million. And the money was managed by Save the Children. And in partnership with Oprah Winfrey, we have managed to rebuild a beautiful school and renovated 11 other schools. We have about 6,000 children that are going through our schools. One of the things that I realized as I was putting together the foundation, I knew I could not do it on my own. And I had a savvy businesswoman. She's here. And I said, can you sit on our board as the chairperson? Not only is Florence a smart lawyer in the country, we don't have many women lawyers. She's one of the first. But she's also a savvy businesswoman. She said, no NGO will survive only on donations. Aid is not going to do it unless if you put a business model, unless NGOs and community-based organizations operate like businesses, then we can eliminate poverty in Africa. Because every year you write your grant proposal, you send it, you get that money, it's done by the day after you have done all the activities. Then what? Then you wait again. But the business community have taught us so much that no, you have to create sustainable income so that we can go on and achieve this vision. And that's why I'm appealing to you that as business community, please inspire us. Give us the solutions. We can do it. Come and partner with local communities. Partner with local governments. And we'll do the best to help deliver the Sustainable Development Goals. We can't do it on our own. We can't do it on our own. Because you are going to hold the baton of education, the baton of good business models, the baton of anti-corruption, the baton that is going to make us be more aware of climate change. Because as rural women, we rely on the environment. So we need the solutions, the technology that work for us. We need that. We also realize that even after the partnership with a giant like Oprah, we work with rural schools. Most of our children, they walk 6 to 8 miles on barefoot to those dilapidated schools. They want education so much. And it got me thinking, but there is a correlation between education, academic performance, and nutrition. Do I need to bury another dream so that I can feed the children? And I'm saying no. I need to go back to the business community so they can show us solutions. Because it's not only me. Most developing countries, we have kids that are going to school hungry. They leave at school, and here we are, we say we can achieve the MDG goals. But there is a connection between academic performance and hunger. Up until we address those things, we can provide the quality education we think, we can put the curriculums that we think, but up until we address some of the social ills, we will never achieve these goals. And I come to you and I beg you to hold our hands, and we'll also hold yours, so we can achieve these goals. I come to you because you are the leaders. You understand how the world functions. We have seen success in your work. Can you help us as non-governmental organizations? Can you help us as governments? Can you partner us so that we can all achieve these goals? We can't do it on our own. I know you hold the power to give this world better tools. The tools that you are using, we need those tools. We need to sit with you. I'm not asking for your money, I'm asking for your heart. I want you to connect your heart to the mission, to connect your heart to the goals. Then you can come and invest, because your heart is connected to what's going to make this world a better place. I come from a place where they say Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. Since we are, therefore I am. It's going to take great leaders like you to realize that we can make a difference, to realize that there is no time to waste. It is now. If we don't do it now, then when? Thank you.